Hey, so we're live. This is the first episode of our weekly Fight for the Future live stream. We just want to use this time to sort of connect with our audience and discuss what's going on this week, what we plan on doing in the future, and just sort of have an open discussion about everything that's going on in the Fight for the Future world. I figured it would be a good idea for us to maybe go around and introduce ourselves for this episode. So I'll go first. My name is Joe. I am the video producer here at Fight for the Future. And I also do a bunch of other random things from, handling a lot of what we do on Reddit. I help out with the store a lot, but a lot of my focus here is on like video content. So any type of, like short like video that we do is done by me, and I'll be running these live streams as well. So we're going to be doing these every week, and I am super excited to see where these go. But that's me, and whoever wants to go next can introduce themselves.
I can go. My name is Caitlin. I'm the Campaigns and Operations Director, Fight for the Future. I work on a handful of different campaigns, including facial recognition, net neutrality, and kind of, I feel like similar to Joe, like all of us just kind of jump in and do a bunch of random things as we're needed. And I also help to run our email and SMS program and just help make sure things are running smoothly and whole bunch of random stuff, but excited to be hopping on today.
I can hop in. I'm Sarah Rockgodet, Fight's Executive Director. And we all have roles, but color outside of our lines as well. It's clear from the first few intros. So bottom line for the org, but think a lot about the management of the team, and we'll talk a little bit today about just how I spent my week recruiting. We're going to recruit some new folks, fundraising, of course, and I'll share a little bit more on that as well. And I work pretty closely with the side of our team that is more tech focused. So our amazing engineers who aren't on right now, designer who is a product director as well. So we are kind of almost half and half these days, sort of political strategy and activism, as well as in tech chops. That's me.
Hi, I'm Leah. I'm a newly minted Campaigns and Communications Director with Fight, and I focus on some communication stuff, and I'm really excited for this live stream. I think it's great to just do something in a different format to talk to you all about what we've been up to this week, what we're thinking. We have such cool conversations like between each other, and I felt for a really long time through contractor to part-time roles with Fight that our conversations are some of the coolest parts about this organization and what we do. So I'm glad that we're bringing more of them public. My focus areas right now are on copyright and also doing a bit of organizing on e-proctoring with Caitlin, among various other roles. And I'm gonna introduce Vassian next. One of the things that came up right before we were starting this live stream is that we'd love to have an image that we can use week to week to remind folks that this is happening. And we were thinking about like old TV test screens and something like that. So we're going to start with Vassian doing a bit of design work. And this is what we do normally when we're trying to build a website or a campaign, to make something that's like both artful, educational, and hopefully, accessible and inspiring to people as we try to change the world. So, Vassian.
Yeah, thank you. So yeah, I'm the lead designer on the team. So as for basically the things I work on is what everybody else works on. So I have to jump and do the design, and kind of we have to go through the ideas, the concepts, and like from starting ground, if it is just a simple campaign or if it is, just a sticker or like anything else that we try to do from social media and everything. So yeah, Leah, thanks for that. I mean, like at this point, this is was a really great idea to jump on live stream as well, in the sense of like we need to get out with this image. So we thought like, let's show it to everybody how we do it, like, how it is, how it starts and how our communication goes between, how with initial idea, even though this is not for like a specific website design or anything like that, it's just social media graphic that we want to put out. But like, why not just give it a try and see how we can do that online, and also like talk over a little bit, explaining it, how we also communicate with each other. Might be interesting for everybody to see, and also maybe get some thoughts. So yeah, so Leah, was it a TV test, right? I think I was.
Yeah, I dropped that link in Element for some different examples. There are like old school like circle ones that are all black and white, and then some newer ones that look all glitchy and weird. Yeah.
That's all right. I'll try that. But Joe, I don't know. I was trying to screen share, but says host disabled participant screen sharing. No worries. So yeah, I mean, like we can do something with that. Yeah, like I was trying. Maybe I could just get one of those images, try to manipulate it a little bit, and maybe do we need to have like a text on top, or like should it be just abstract thing and then you're going to add description later on?
Yeah, maybe, or just something that like has the fight logo in the center with the heart or something like that.
Okay, sure. Yeah, I'll see how I can add the fight logo, but I feel like in the big, okay, so there won't be any space for big lettering or like big text, right?
No, yeah, it's more just like to put on Instagram and on Twitter to accompany a text invite for folks.
Makes sense. All right, I think I have something that I downloaded here just so I can get started. Joe, I still get the.
And it will let you screen share.
What? Sorry.
If you think if I make you host, it will allow you to screen share. Yeah.
Not sure. I still get the same.
Let me try.
Yeah, try that.
Yeah. Should be able to do it.
Sorry.
I just made you host, so I think you might be able to screen share now.
All right. Yeah, it works.
Cool.
All right. Can you see my screen? I guess.
Yep,
yes.
totally.
All right. So I got this one, but I was thinking that because this is like the size of, I don't know if you can see the screen, but like just making this the size for Instagram, basically the portrait version of Instagram is like 13 by 50 height. And also I want to make sure that the whole thing is like in the center. So like usually when I create this stuff, especially for Instagram, it's like I want to make sure that even on the profile, when it is like a square, everything is visible. So it's not like, so in order to do that is, I just do something like a square in the middle of this and like try to align it with the background. So like, let's say, when this is going to get cropped by Instagram for the profile, you're still going to be able to see the main image of it and not be cropped. So that's a good thing to have in mind, but I usually make sure to check that. So here I have I'm going to duplicate this as an image and I'll rotate it and bring it to the back so I can get a little bit more that in here. So what else? This is, as we were saying, this is completely experimental on our end. So we are just trying to work on this similar to what we do daily, or, like if we have campaign or whatever. So maybe I'm talking too much, but.
No, I think this is like, what's cool about this is that Fight really is made up of a whole bunch of artists, and so like the art of the things that we do is a big part of our work, and yeah, so like showing what these processes look like to just do a design call with our like on staff lead designer is I think it's pretty cool. And I'm hoping like maybe next week or something like that. We just had this incredible call with an accessibility consultant team who are, I'm trying to remember the name, I know the person, but an accessibility consulting team, I think it's like Prime Access Consulting, Sina Baram. And it was so, I don't speak dev, but it was so cool with our devs to just be talking about making our sites more accessible, the things that we were doing right, the things that we needed to do differently, and like how to think about these sites, you know, in terms of folks with a screen reader and what have you, and the sort of like art of conceptualizing that as a dev and working from Bastian's designs and working together to make sure that we're building something that's as accessible as possible. And yeah, that was super cool. So maybe next week we can hop on with one of our devs to talk a little bit about like what we learned, or actually that website isn't going to launch until, it's going to launch a little bit later. So maybe we'll wait. But yeah, regardless, we're all like really passionate about what we do, you know, in terms of like this being, you know, a work of art as well as a work of activism. So yeah, really like having you do this. So what's with all the grading, you know, the black shadows?
Oh, I'm just trying to kind of, you know, get a little bit out of what actually it is, and add a little bit of the Fight for the Future colors to it overall.
Oh, okay, I see.
But with a dark sort of cropping, what I'm trying to do is that, you know, this kind of adds a little bit of, I don't know, like a background sort of noise to it. As I said, I mean, nothing concrete in here, especially for this artwork, is not something that we want to add a sort of a meaning to it, but I will try to add maybe like a Fight for the Future logo to it. Like there is something, I mean, if I remember this correctly, or if I know this correctly, you know, this sort of, it was used to test the colors, or like, I don't know what was used for Unreal TV. Do you know, Leah?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it was like a calibration image.
Yeah.
Which isn't something that
So changing the colors of these doesn't make sense if it's going to be, but let's treat this as an artwork sort of style.
Yeah.
And
like
if I had some...
too, I think it's particularly fun because like the question that we're usually asking ourselves is, because a lot of what we're trying to do with the content that we create is educational, and a lot of that education is really text-based. And so we're always trying to find creative ways to shove more text onto a website or what have you, while still keeping it like aesthetic and functional and brief for the attention spans of folks on the internet. So this is also a fun one because like we're just going to put a logo on it and it can be art. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know what happened here. Like my Photoshop froze. This is...
Of course it did.
This never happens, but
I bet it's the screen share.
I think it's a screen share because it's crashed. It says send crash report.
Yeah, Zoom's been real fun for me on several occasions in terms of like crashing my whole system.
Let's hope. I don't know what's going to happen now, but I'm going to stop the share.
Oh, looks good.
Let's see if I can get back to it. I even didn't save it. I'm sorry.
Oh, well.
Well, this is the whole fun on it, right? Like I've been through this so many times.
Yeah.
The ins and outs of crashing programs in Zoom.
Well, thanks for sharing that with us, Bastian. That's really cool. I think we should do stuff like that again. It was really cool. But let's move to the next topic, which I think is with you, Caitlin, with facial recognition. Can you just sort of give us an overview of what's going on and what we're working on, and you know what we're looking toward the future about with this stuff?
Yeah, totally. Like I said at the top, I think, and as most of us, we work on a lot of different issues, but this week I did have a couple of different things around facial recognition that came up that I figured I could share. So we work on banning facial recognition both nationally and then also at the local level. So some exciting news at the local level. So Minneapolis is likely to today pass a ban on facial recognition, which is awesome, especially, I think this summer coming out of the riots for justice in policing, obviously really centered on Minneapolis with the killing of George Floyd. This is a big move forward to stop their law enforcement from using this technology that is racist and unjust. So this is super exciting news coming out of Minneapolis. So that's really awesome. And we're, excited to support some local groups on the ground who are working on that and help push for some folks to take actions and support the passage of that legislation. So that's really exciting. And then in addition to that, we're connecting with folks in New York and Washington. So, literally across the country who are also working to pass local facial recognition bans, which is awesome. It's definitely something that we need at the federal level. But while we continue to push for that, it's awesome that so many communities are recognizing all of the problems with this technology and all the dangers that it puts people in and moving to ban it from being used. So always really exciting when we get to actually push forward some of these things and have some wins. And then I guess the other update I wanted to share is some sort of recent information we heard about yesterday about the Clearview AI app, which for folks who don't know, it's kind of the notorious, really terrible facial recognition tool that gathered billions of images by scraping them from social media from across the internet, even going against a lot of sites' terms of use. And over, last year, it was discovered a lot of the different companies and governments that were using this technology. It has contracts with more than 600 police departments, including ones in Florida that were using it last month to try and identify rioters at the January 6th Capitol riot. Companies like Verizon and the NBA have used it to test it out or to use it to identify people. So it's definitely, one of many bad facial recognition tools, but it's a big bad for sure. But we just found out yesterday that they applied for a patent on their product, and it includes capabilities for running facial recognition, for accessing buildings, for use for private vendors, and for push notifications to cell phones based on biometric information. So they're definitely trying to expand and grow, their different use cases. They say that this would allow them to provide a tool to do instant background checks on people by checking their social media and suggest it to be used for dating or for business or other relationships. And it's, just like every time there's a new news piece about Clearview, it's bad news. This is just absolutely ridiculous that they want to promote this tool as a way to take a quick shot of someone you're going on a date with and then skim through images of them on social media that you may or may not have put up there or know are out there. And similar for if someone's applying for a job, the idea that they should go through a facial recognition background check is just a huge infringement on privacy and our rights. And so it's just pretty disgusting and abhorrent what this company is trying to do to really normalize use of facial recognition and weave it in and out of all parts of our lives. So that's some just new news, and we're kind of talking internally about how to respond to that. I think on the one hand, it definitely highlights the need to ban the use of facial recognition. by private companies in addition to law enforcement and government use, because, you know, as much as we've, and a lot of groups have focused on the need to ban law enforcement and government use of facial recognition, private entities have a ton of power. And if they have access to this technology, they can just as easily use it against people. So it definitely highlights that. And then, yeah, we're also just talking about, you know, directions and ways that we can address this issue, and have been talking about maybe opportunities at the FTC, in the alphabet soup of government agencies. The FTC recently came out with a decision against a photo app that was using facial recognition, and they've also highlighted the want to engage more on facial recognition and the way it's being used. And so it seems like there's, you know, potentially some opportunities to work there. So yeah, working with some of our coalition groups and internally to figure out how to respond to this. But yeah, there's definitely a ton of work to do, but those were a couple things that came up on for me this week around our facial recognition work.
It's just so slimy. Like,
yeah,
every time it's Clearview. I mean, I don't know if everybody's seen the John Oliver segment on facial recognition, but he really goes after like this dude for being, you know, some like unethical guy wearing, you know, very little clothing at Burning Man, running around pretending like what he's doing is is okay, scraping billions of images without our consent to like make tons and tons of money off of and give to police departments. It's so gross. And like,
really?
Yeah, I just still can't, like, Caitlin, are there more cities that you're aware of? Like, I live in Portland, Oregon. We have the strongest facial recognition ban in the country, I believe. And we are the only city with a private ban, which means that like Clearview can't sell their horrible technology to Macy's so that they can profile everyone who goes in their stores or surveil their sidewalks or what have you with FR. Is there any other cities that are working on private bans right now? Do you know?
I mean, I know some places are talking about it, but I don't think so. Portland was like huge in making that that kind of initial step forward. And so we've been like sharing that out for sure, as like other cities definitely do this as well. But yeah, otherwise it hasn't spread quite as quickly, but I think we need to just like promote it and really be talking about it as much. Cause like I said, like, you know, even when we started working on this issue, it was like, okay, law enforcement, government, let's stop that. But like private use is just as bad and just as dangerous and can be just as unjust and infringement on privacy. And yeah, like collects this giant database of our biometric information that can be hacked. You know, like does a month go by when we don't hear about how, you know, credit card information from some retail store was hacked? Like, just think about that, except it's your face. So you can't just get a new one.
And it's like where you go every day. It's what you do. It's where your children go every day, what they do, what they look like. Like that's the thing that like I feel like people don't really get about FR when they don't understand the import of this issue. It's not just like a scan of your face. It's everywhere you go that there's a camera that can be run through this technology.
Yeah, and there are cameras everywhere. So like, they know where you go. They know if you have to go to the doctor or the hospital. They know where you're going for your religious beliefs. Like, they know everything.
Everything, yeah, and that has a really deep chilling effect on what you do as a person if you feel like you're being watched 24/7 and you maybe, you know, like you don't necessarily trust, you know, the government or corporations, or like you're, you know, with this Clearview BS, like your own company where you work running the like running your face through facial recognition algorithms that are readily available to see what you did on Friday night, see where you were on Sunday. You know, like there's a whole bunch about us that nobody needs to know unless we want them to. And that's what this fight is. It's the fight for our right to do what we want to do without people breathing down our necks all the time. And I think also like the Portland ban really came from the city's drive to make legislation like in consultation with BIPOC communities, and their conclusion that a private ban was necessary came from talking to those folks who live here about what their concerns are, and just the sheer reality that like if the cops aren't allowed to purchase facial recognition technology, but Walmart is, the cops can just get the Walmart.
Yeah.
Like the cops can have Walmart do that for them. And more as we're seeking to like defund the police, to reallocate those resources, it's like the police are looking for ways to find money elsewhere, and they're finding a lot of that money like from Verizon and police foundations and stuff
Amazon.
like that. Yeah, Amazon. Yeah, like
yeah.
So it's so messy, and if like governments would just take a baseline of protecting our privacy, we wouldn't be here, right?
Totally.
So
yeah, I think a lot of. Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Joe.
I've got a question on the private use stuff. Like, there are a ton of other things that use facial recognition that aren't like Walmart, security cameras and stuff. Like, how does this affect, like there are so many video doorbells deployed all over the place. Like, do those need to run different software, or is that type of facial recognition treated differently? That's actually something I've been curious about, because there's a lot of like, just like not even a business, not even a company, but people just running hardware that does facial recognition automatically. How does it affect that kind of thing?
Totally. Yeah. So I will say, I feel like this has come up in some conversations recently. So like a lot of people use Face ID to unlock your phones, and like every facial recognition ban, whether it's private or public use, has an exclusion for that. So if people, we don't recommend it. We don't recommend you using your biometric information to unlock your phone, but there is an exclusion for that. But I think the thing that in the Portland legislation that was part of like the, I don't know, the like genius, or like it was really well written legislation, is that it applied to areas where the Americans with Disability Act applied. So it's places of public use. So that doesn't mean individual homes. So if on your house, you know, you had some technology where you wanted to apply facial recognition, it wouldn't apply to that. I also know that, like, you know, we've been working on fighting Amazon Ring doorbells, and like we said, their partnerships with police departments. And I think it's in Jackson, Mississippi, where they were trying out a program to match up those doorbells with Amazon's recognition, facial recognition program. And I think that's where they were doing the trial on that. So, you know, it's one of those things that isn't widely happening at this point, but like it's a very serious concern that these companies that have these surveillance tools like these doorbell cameras also have facial recognition technology, and they can easily put them together. So yeah, that's to say that, like, you know, if you want to use facial recognition at your home, these laws wouldn't stop you from doing that. But, you know, again, it's like it all creeps and starts to infringe on, like, okay, maybe you're not using facial recognition, but maybe the footage from your doorbell camera goes to the police and they use facial recognition. So it all definitely starts to creep together and create this just massive surveillance empire, which is why, yeah, kind of both these private bans and the government bans are so critical.
And it's like those mass databases, right? It's those databases of faces that are like of paramount concern here.
Yeah.
Cool. So it looks like, Bastian, you were saying in our chat that you might be done with that design. So I'm gonna give you host back, so you can screen share, and let's take a look at that, and we can talk about that for a sec.
All right. I think now it works. All right. Can you see my screen? Probably.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Awesome. So yeah, I mean, like, let me just debunk this a little bit, like what I did here. So basically, I got the image as it was in the beginning. Added some of this glitch. It's called like distortion, just for this to make. I mean, the whole thing of this is like a little bit abstract, so we just want to kind of have a little bit of fight for the future to it. And I feel like this is with the fight for the future style at some point, and this could be like an artwork printed, whatever. Like this is for social media. But Leah, let me know if there is something that you want me to change in here, like you wanted to add, or like this was your initial idea, and this is your thing in sense of like what is the specific goal with this. But like, let me know if this is good enough, or like you want me to try something more with it. Because yeah, I mean, like I did the heart of the fight for the future over here. It was perfectly in the center, just so I could write fight somewhere. But yeah, I mean, like overall, this is pretty cool. I also a long time ago tried to do some design with this, and because I always find this fascinating as a artwork, even though it's just for testing the colors on TV. So yeah.
I mean, one thing
That's
that might
cool.
be cool, it looks so great. It's very eye-catching, and it's also good because like it's abstract enough that we can just take this and throw it up on Instagram or on Twitter, and it'll fit on either, because it's not like really a text-based image. But of course, here I am wanting to add text to it. Like
Yeah, sorry.
Like if the 1, 2, 3, 4 line, you added one more block, it could say streaming or something like that if you took out the numbers and put letters in there. And then that would be,
you mean like instead of the numbers to be letters?
one more black box, and it could spell out to streaming or something like that.
Sure. Yeah, let's try that.
And yeah, that like there's something like that would be cool. But overall, I mean, we've achieved the goal of a weird graphic to go with these weekly stream announcements. Joe, are we always doing these like at this time on Friday? Is this going to be like a standing thing at this time?
That's the idea.
Cool.
Yeah, and we're experimenting with format, I think, somewhat. It seems like some weeks maybe we'll just a group of us will jump on and kind of report on and talk about what we did over the course of the week, big headlines in our campaigns, or major launches. But then we may also pick some like issue specific focuses, and that's like blockchain and defending crypto networks, and invite some guests, or a deeper dive on facial recognition. Or we have a campaigner who is totally focused on Amazon and the surveillance empire they're building. So yeah, but folks have feedback, we'd love to hear it.
Yeah, so sort of developing as we go.
Yeah, this is
very much an experiment.
Yeah. And also, like, I would be really interested to hear from people about like what's most useful for us to do for them. Like there's so much going on that we're all obviously overwhelmed with the amount of digital rights issues that we deal with on a daily basis. Is this like what can we do to keep updated without making them feel overwhelmed or doom and gloom about it? That'd be cool to know too.
I don't know if anyone else is watching WandaVision, but this image makes me think of that.
Mm-hmm.
Like kind of like distorted TV stuff. It's cool.
I was actually very pleasantly surprised with that show.
Sure.
Yeah, it's cool. It's like kooky. It's different.
Reminds me of Black Mirror a lot.
Yeah. Marvel's Black Mirror.
Leah, what do you think of having just stream?
Yeah.
Because streaming won't have much space in there, and I wanted to keep those as boxes.
Yeah, I think that's
add these as maybe make it red, so it's more like the streaming.
Could also do live. I know you just did all this work to get these letters in here, but
I mean, I think this sort of works, but like I can try live if you want.
Mhm.
But this kind of fills the whole thing in a way. Yeah, I'm just gonna add some smaller elements just to fill these empty spaces here.
Cool. And so we'll be using this next week to remind folks that we're doing this stream.
Could also be like a cool sticker or something.
Yeah, wouldn't want to print that on a shirt. It would be so expensive.
All the colors.
All the
A
colors.
little like motion to it would also be a good like intro graphic to leave
Yeah.
up while we're waiting to go live.
Yeah, I
But
like
if you like this design, let us know. Like we can make a t-shirt, I guess, for our store.
No, we're not making a t-shirt. Maybe like a $50 like sublimated, like limited pro t-shirt.
That'd be cool though.
I'm
It would
guessing, Sebastian, you like the symmetry of the heart in the middle, but there's something about it not like lining up bothers me a little bit.
Yeah, I see what you're saying. Like,
The bottom left or bottom right or something in one of those white spaces. With the one in the middle.
If we're gonna crop it for Twitter, then it probably needs to be middle-ish,
Oh, okay.
but not in the middle necessarily.
Right.
Or we could have more than one heart.
yeah. Do you want to have like a URL? We have sort of this space here. Like,
We don't have like a nice YouTube vanity thing right now, so I think we're pretty good.
okay. I don't know what else I can add to it, but I feel like
Yeah, that's great.
there is thing like, you know, keep it simple. So like if I keep adding, I'm going to look at it later. I'm going to be why.
Fair enough.
You're ahead.
Yeah, tough. Can add something.
Sebastian and I worked on some.
Yeah.
Sure, but
Right.
we'll be sharing it out.
Sorry, Sarah.
Oh, that's There's some cool new stickers and t-shirt and sticker. No gods, no app stores.
I love that one so much.
Yeah.
I will do one quick thing, and I will let everybody go because this was part of the design, but like this is what we do. Like, you know, we just get on a call. Usually we talk about what we need to do and like get to these points, which is done. And like I usually ship the artworks to anybody on the team who needs it. But this is for social media, not for a campaign or website. So hopefully next time we're gonna do a website from scratch. I mean, like just start and do like the ideas and things like that. So we might be screen sharing that. All right, I'll call it a done design at this point, but like we can alter it if there is something going on social, like we wanted to share it differently or something changes. Yeah, all right. Let me stop screen sharing and make Fight for the Future the host.
Cool. Thank you for doing that, Bastian. That was really neat.
Yeah, thanks everybody. I'm going to drop so you can continue with the conversation. I'm going to continue working on some other things, but looking forward to be with everybody on the next live stream.
Yeah, thanks.
Thanks, Austin.
So Leah, do you want to touch on the e-proctoring stuff a little bit? That's like super hot right now, and it's actually really, really interesting. I'd love to hear kind of the latest on what's going on with that.
Yeah, totally. So, I mean, e-proctoring is a really frustrating issue for me personally. And I think probably for students, or obviously for students around the globe. Like basically what's happened during COVID is all these universities and all of these instructors who had kind of been relying on the same old quizzes with the same old ABC answers were are upset and intimidated by the idea of doing remote learning and remote test taking. So letting students take tests from home or from wherever they can get an internet connection. And of course, the answer to that so-called answer came from essentially spyware companies that are looking to rebrand and legitimize really creepy software that does things like, take control of your camera, take control of your browser, your ability to pan between windows, a really wide variety of essentially how your personal computer functions, and to package that up and sell it to universities and to university faculty as the solution to prevent cheating on these quizzes that, to a large extent have been criticized for not showing or not really demonstrating that students are learning in the first place. So there's a root issue there that is the product of how universities have been, testing students as an institution, or at least some universities and some faculty. So these folks are clamoring for e-proctoring solutions. We're talking like ProctorU, Proctorio, Respondus, a bunch of different solutions that, essentially film you as you're taking a test or an exam. And there have just been, since the pandemic began, specifically issue after issue after issue with these things. Everything from, if you have too many eye movements, your professor is sending you an email yelling at you because you were flagged as cheating, 20 times because your eyes are moving, or professors and students alike who don't understand or haven't set up good guidelines for a 2-hour-long test, and then students are literally urinating in a bucket on camera in order to not be flagged as cheating by this algorithm. And then there was this whole huge issue this summer, I believe, with folks specifically in California, but I think all around the country, taking the bar exam, where the proctoring software that they were using essentially couldn't detect that people with darker skin had a face. And so in order to take this 2-day-long, incredibly challenging study and train for it for years, test that determines whether or not you can become a lawyer, people of color had to shine like really bright lamps on their faces right here for 2 days straight, whereas students with light skin didn't have to do anything like that. So there's been really a rush to Band-Aid solutions for a problem that should be addressed at its root. And e-proctoring companies have ridden that wave into most, or at least many, universities across the country and around the world. And one of the ways that they've done this is through forming partnerships with major textbook companies that essentially just preload proctoring software into the back end of their quizzes and assessments that they provide to university faculty. And so the professor, not knowing anything, many of these people who type with one finger are just checking this box for racist, ableist software to force their students to take it. And then a result comes back that professors maybe don't know how to read, maybe don't understand, and a result that more frequently flags people of color, students with disabilities, students who have children, students who don't live by themselves or have a room that they can take the tests in by themselves without interruption, and students who don't have a stable internet connection, which is actually a huge portion of our population overall lacks access to stable broadband. All of those people, all of those disadvantaged students who deviate from the norm are being flagged as potential cheaters, flagged for additional scrutiny, and that's unacceptable. And textbook companies are right in there profiting from it. And so we held an action day on Twitter on Wednesday to call on major textbook company McGraw-Hill to end their relationship with Proctorio. And we had over 20 racial justice, human rights, and privacy organizations join us in this day of action, where we drove, I think, well over 600 tweets now. Even Evangeline Lilly chimed in, because this is patently ridiculous. And this issue is so obviously wrong And don't even get me started on the facial recognition algorithms that a lot of these are using. Like there's so much to be concerned about. And if you want the icing on the cake, similar to like the founder bro of Clearview AI that I was talking about with Caitlin, Proctorio in particular, the company that McGraw-Hill has allied themselves with and is peddling their bunk racist software, has this CEO, Mike Olson, who is like such a loser. Like his, as students were criticizing the technology, was to like get on Reddit where a student was complaining about Proctorio and post private chat logs from that student's Proctorio customer service while they were taking their test. And he's also encouraging or like having Proctorio's lawyers abuse the Twitter DMCA takedown process to silence student dissent. They're suing a privacy researcher at the University of British Columbia for criticizing Proctorio's code and sharing unlisted YouTube videos. And that's a slap lawsuit straight up. They think that they can just lawyer up and silence dissent. And I had one reporter that I was talking to on all of this tell me that, you know, it's Mike Olson's position that essentially the more Proctorio is criticized is the more the money rolls in, that all press is good press for Proctorio, and that they are benefiting from the controversy by having their name in the news. So they don't seem to be at all interested in creating an equitable learning environment. They're just raking in the cash on the backs of marginalized students. And and yeah, we're here for that fight. So you could check out, I'll just show you really quick, the website I built, because you made me host, right, Joe?
Yep, you should be able to, you should do that. And I can fix it in the future.
One tab, yeah. Share. Cool, are you seeing the McGraw-Hill site?
Looks great.
Yep.
Awesome. So we actually built this site for the, of course it like switched to full screen in my Chrome view, so I'm gonna be like, but this is my side profile. So we originally built this site actually for when Trump was doing his ridiculous song and dance on Section 230 during a comment period at the FCC, where we just wanted to, you know, drive a bunch of crap Ajit Pai's way, as he deserves. And we, with our partners at Parents Together, came up with the idea of doing a Twitter Action Day, because oftentimes it's really easy to just ask partner orgs for a tweet and have them, you know, chime in on a really important issue and orient their followers towards something that's super unjust. So we created this website for our you know, partners and supporters to share, to send out to our mailing list, etc. And essentially you can go in here and type in, you know, whatever it is, send tweet, and then you get a little pop-up that that generates that tweet for you if you're logged in. All you have to do is hit send tweet. It's really great little build. Shout out to the dev team. And then we have this explainer down here. There's nothing like on the daily talking about urine in a professional environment, and like looking at these photos of like young people holding bottles of their own urine on Twitter to try to demonstrate how problematic this is. So we're talking about that. And then down here, we just threw a bunch of tweets from supporters in here, everything from like, shout out to my local PDX Privacy, who we worked with on the Portland facial recognition ban, you know, to Epic, who's filing legal complaints about e-proctoring, and Yale's Privacy Lab, which is doing a panel that I'm going to be on this on March 6th. If you check out, you know, their Twitter, Privacy Lab ISP, you will be able to see the events that they have coming up. There's like 3 panels in one day. It's going to be super rad, and that's and also important to be talking about these issues with educators, etc. So I'm going to stop that share. That's e-proctoring. It is awful. Sorry.
And it's wild because like tons of students have also like organized and stood up and done things against this, right? And like,
oh God, yeah,
aren't even listening.
I didn't even talk about that. So like there's change.org petitions with hundreds of thousands of signatures from students. And like the big thing there is like, we've been working on this, you know, this issue and trying to draw attention to it for months. And of course, the people that we want to amplify the voices of are students themselves. But this is a dynamic where like students are actually really afraid for their futures if they speak up. And so they have a hard time, you know, organizing specifically because they're afraid that their professors are going to give them bad grades. They're afraid that their institutions are going to punish them because there's like this profit and legitimacy motive on behalf of the institutions that's making students afraid to speak out. So we've been organizing parents, we've been organizing human rights groups, and we're not going to put this, you know, like the pressure has to keep going up, and especially with students who are afraid to speak for themselves. So like, yeah, students have been doing amazing work and students are also afraid, and that's part of why we're here.
Your kitty agrees.
Yeah, no, you can hear her. Yeah, she, like when I talk a bunch, all of a sudden she's like, "Oh, you're active, pet me." I think she also wants breakfast. I was also going to pop in on some work with on public libraries and stuff like that, Joe. But I know that we're trying to end around the top of the hour, so should we do that maybe next week?
Yeah, I think that's probably right. Can you give us the URL a little more time before we move on to the next topic?
Yep, real simple, baneproctoring.com.
Cool. So Sarah, I was wondering if maybe you wanted to close it out. You had some notes in here with some stuff to cover. So
Yeah, I can, and I think it'll be pretty quick. My Zoom is like taxing my computer, and I'm outside and it's warm, so we'll see if I can stay on video for a little bit. But yeah, I thought I could just pretty briefly share a few things about how I spent my week, just also by way of like, you know, some of the behind the scenes work that makes Fight for the Future happen. Caitlin and Leah, Evan and Ayele and others, you know, sort of leading on our campaigns, and you know, that's obviously the most visible thing that we're doing. But yeah, I mentioned at the beginning some of the things that I spend my time on, you know, as the executive director of the organization, and it just being that we're a really small team. We are 11 full-time folks plus some contractors. We all mentioned as we were going around and introducing ourselves that we have like some specific roles, whether that's campaigners and campaigners who are also maybe focused on communications or focused on campaigns operations. But then we all, you know, color outside of the lines, and you know, and you know, the other thing I'd mention is we do a lot of our work collaboratively too. We find we do some of our best work when we're, you know, two or more of us are kind of working together, or at times where we have the entire team really focused on together on building up to a really big moment on one of our campaigns. You know, in our history, things like big net neutrality days of action, as an example. But that I mentioned that the tech side of our team, not represented here today, but you know, for sure will be here in future live streams. Our product director, Bastian, our designer, and two really amazing software engineers, Meredith and Ken. They're really integrated into our team, not only, you know, there to kind of build the sites and the tools that are needed in the moment to meet the political moment, but also just to inform our strategy development and our positions that we take on different campaigns, which are, you know, which really try to make informed by technologists and folks who really understand the tech. So on that note, we are, I spent a little bit of my week recruiting. I've spent 15 years as an organizer and a recruiter. So like, it's sort of it's like what I would do for fun, you know, is have like interview kind of conversations and meet folks who are interested in doing this type of work. At times, you know, we distribute it across our team as well. But I think Joe dropped in the chat, but we always have jobs posted. We've got them at fightforthefuture.org/jobs. And we have just a general interest application there as well. It's kind of a fun way to say hello and say what what your background is, and also your kind of superpowers and things. Never know when that might make sense for needs within the organization. But we're also specifically working to build up our capacity right now around our campaign to defend Section 230 of the Communications Decency Act, which I'm sure we'll talk more about at one of these live streams in the future. But we are pretty concerned about the attacks coming from both the right and the left, and the way in which any reforms to that law could have really unintended consequences especially for the most marginalized communities online and our voices online. So yeah, we are been recruiting and interviewing folks who are interested in that position. It's a short-term contract positions. That's one of the ways in which we'll scale up at different moments on our campaigns. And then but I'd also mention that we're in the process of putting together, I think, our first ever summer internship program too, for undergrads or grad students who are interested in pitching in there. We'll probably have we'll be able to do a small stipend for folks who aren't able to find funding somewhere else. So stay tuned for that. And then, yeah, others on the team, Erica, who manages a lot of our social media channels, and working with Leah as well, who thinks a lot about sort of building communities within our work, have been recruiting and working with volunteers. Like right now, a fairly small group that's working in a Discord channel, but Erica's doing a great job of just managing projects that campaigners need help with, and plugging volunteers into working on those. That's always kind of a experiment to figure out what works for us as a team and what works for volunteers. But if folks are interested in that, just email us at team@fightforthefuture.org. We can get you plugged in there. And then I also spent part of my week, just as I spent a lot of my time thinking about finding the funding to do this work. We're a nonprofit. We're actually two nonprofits. We have a 501c3. It's just like the IRS tax code, but that is kind of the traditional charity where donations are tax exempt. We can do a lot of our education and organizing through that nonprofit. But then we also have what's called a 501c4, which is another kind of nonprofit, but that enables us to do direct lobbying, which we do some of just on the Hill through conversations with staffers or members of Congress, but we do mostly through channeling outrage on the internet, towards specific decision makers through websites and tools like we have at Battle for the Net or banfacialrecognition.com. And so, yeah, I spent some of my week just working on a grant proposal to get some funding around net neutrality. I spend some of my time thinking about and drafting, as does everybody on the team, drafting emails that we can send to our email list, both to activate our supporters and members around campaigns, but also to fundraise. And that's it's really an important way that we're able to raise money for the organization. The breakdown is basically between those two nonprofits. They share the staff and share a lot of the resources, but we have about half of our funding right now coming from foundations, and then the other half is from individual donors, of which the vast majority is grassroots donations. Our grassroots donations, I think, something like 300,000, 360,000, I think, is our goal this year. It comes in an average donation of $15. So we really grassroots donations, and all of those make a huge difference. And even if you get an email fundraiser and you can't always give, we try to make them as informative as possible. And also, opening the email. I just told my mother-in-law recently, who asked me, I get all your emails, I just can't give every time. It's that is okay. I asked her to click on the links in the emails, as long as she's, confident that they're from us, but that, that really makes a difference in terms of, unfortunately, the email service providers, and the way that they do deliverability depends a lot around people opening our emails and clicking on our emails. And so that makes a big difference too. So just as a side note, but yeah, that's a a big part of how I spend my time is fundraising and some of the things that I was involved in this week.
Well, cool. I want to thank all 7 people that were hanging out with us and watching during the live stream. This is the first one, but we're going to continue doing this going into the future, planning on doing this same time next week. Also looking into doing something, maybe there's a hearing about the Wall Street bets and Robinhood stuff coming up this coming Thursday. So I'm looking at possibly doing a live stream around that as well. So just pay attention to our social media. We're on Instagram and Twitter. And then for the folks on YouTube, don't forget to, this is obligatory, don't forget to like and subscribe. We'll be back here same time next week. And thanks for joining us.
Thanks.
Thank you. Bye, everybody.
Bye.